Toronto lays out its plan to vaccinate the masses.
If a plane with vaccines arrived tomorrow and the province asked us to stand up clinics, we'd be ready to go.
We've got details on where the city's mass clinics will be and when they should be up and running. Plus, the lawsuit against the president of the Raptors so many were outraged was ever filed in the first place has finally been dropped.
I was hoping that maybe the Premier today would announce that the lockdown is ended for my birthday.
And sorry, Hazel, how Mississauga's longest-running mayor is celebrating her 100th birthday pandemic style. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Toronto's mayor announced today the city is preparing 9 mass COVID vaccination sites. The plan is to have them up and running in early April, but the news comes just weeks after the city had to close its first mega vaccine clinic at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, and that is where Farah Morelli is joining us live tonight. Farah, the vaccine clinic there opened and then closed just days later because of a lack of supply.
That's right, Chris. And we know that the supply of these vaccines has been pretty unpredictable in recent weeks and months. So the city says it wants to be ready once it does actually arrive. And so tonight, a plan to ensure that the convention center and 8 other sites across the city are ready to start vaccinating large groups of people by early April.
Excitement and optimism on the opening days of the mass vaccination centre at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre.
It's been a long time coming.
But that excitement was short-lived. 2 days later, the clinic was ordered closed by the province because there simply weren't enough vaccines. Today, a dose of good news from the city. It's preparing to open that site and several others.
We have 9 sites across the city that will be ready to administer up to 120,000 vaccinations a week.
The vaccination sites will be spread out across the city and were chosen based on location and the physical size of the buildings. The 9 mass sites include the Scarborough Town Centre and Cloverdale Mall. The plan is to have them up and running by early April. The big question, though, will there be enough vaccines?
What assurances at this stage has the city received that it will have the sufficient supply to be able to actually have these clinics open and running?
At the City of Toronto, we want to be ready the minute we're tapped on the shoulder. That's the bottom line. We want to get needles into our residents' arms as soon as possible.
The chair of Toronto's Board of Health said today the province is responsible for supply, and they're taking direction from them.
The province has asked us to be ready by April 1st with our vaccination clinics and our broader mobile clinic strategy. But we've put in place the system now so that if vaccines do arrive, we can start sooner.
Even with the mass sites, the city expects most people will get vaccinated in pharmacies or their doctor's offices. But that too depends on supply, since the Pfizer vaccine requires ultra-cold storage, something not readily available in those places.
With the other vaccines being approved, it's going to be much more feasible to do a primary care model, a pharmacy model, a better point of care model for patients. But unfortunately, for the time being, this is the best solution that's been working in other places in the world.
Now, that best solution Dr. Chagla was referring to is, of course, these mass vaccination sites right now. What we don't know tonight is who is going to be the first, which groups are going to be the first to be called to these vaccination sites once they open. The city says that the province is responsible for prioritizing these groups, and it will take direction from them. Chris.
All right, and certainly we know a lot of people are eager to get those shots. Thanks so much for this, Farah. Now, one group of people who will not need to get vaccinated at those mass sites, residents in long-term care. That is because by the end of today, the province says all of them who wanted a shot have now gotten one. It is an important milestone in a fight against a disease that has disproportionately impacted long-term care homes in Ontario. Still, as Lorenda Redekop explains, some advocates say it should have happened sooner.
The province says residents in 95% of long-term care homes had received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine as of last night. By tonight, the government expects that to hit 100%.
Yes, that should have happened perhaps a few weeks earlier,
but it is still something to celebrate.
His latest graph, tracking long-term care cases since September, shows active cases for residents and staff have been dropping for the past month. But the number of resident deaths continues to climb, though the rate is now slowing.
Had enough since the end of December to vaccinate not only every long-term care resident, of which there are only 70,000, but all 60,000 retirement home residents.
Since January 1st, close to 1,000 people in Ontario long-term care homes have died.
We could have completely and fully provided both doses to all long-term care and retirement home residents in the past 2 months, and yet we're still trailing behind. And that has resulted in unnecessary death.
This long-term care advocate hears from families and wishes the government had been more strategic in its rollout.
It's just a disorganized mess. I have some families that tell me that as an essential caregiver, they received the vaccine, but their resident, their loved one in care still hasn't, or I hear the opposite.
This is the government's latest priority list for who gets a vaccine and when. But new international data keeps coming. Israel found that in the past month, 97% of its COVID deaths were people who were not vaccinated. Dr. Stahl hopes Ontario's list is not a final version.
It shows that 1.5 million essential workers are sitting ahead of 3.5 million older adults. And to me, that's greatly concerning because 96% of deaths among Ontarians have occurred in those aged 60 and older.
When it comes to long-term care residents, the government says the effects of vaccines are obvious, with active cases under 400, the lowest since late October. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Now to late-breaking news this evening, and 2 Brampton High School teachers who allegedly were not following school protocols have tested positive for COVID-19. One of them has the more contagious B117 variant first detected in the UK. They were both teaching students remotely from the school, but we don't know which one yet. In a statement, the Dufferin-Peel Catholic District School Board confirmed the 2 teachers were exercising together and that at least for a portion of the time they were not wearing masks. The statement goes on to say that's a mandatory requirement of all employees while in board facilities. It was and remains the board's expectation that school gyms and weight rooms were not to be used by staff for recreational purposes. It's unclear if the teachers are facing disciplinary action, but the board saying tonight there was no contact with any students. A 29-year-old man has been charged after allegedly providing a false COVID-19 test result to inspectors at Pearson Airport. Peel police say the incident took place on Monday. Inspectors discovered the man's negative COVID-19 document was fraudulent and, in fact, a positive test result. The man from Stratford was arrested and charged with knowingly using a forged document. He has since been released and taken to a hospital for the mandatory quarantine period. Well, this is no fake. Lockdown lifted today in 3 Ontario public health units, Kingston, Renfrew, and Hastings. Those areas are now in the green zone on the province's color-coded framework, with the most lax of COVID restrictions. But as Ali Chiasson reports, some businesses are still leery.
We really needed this. My staff needed this, so we're excited to get back to work.
Tommy Hunter has every confidence in his team to reopen safely to in-person dining. They're used to sanitizing, spacing out tables, enforcing masks is going to be easy, making sure their diners are local.
For us, to be honest, unfortunately, it wouldn't be enforceable, really. We're a student place. A lot of our students come from Ottawa, from Montreal, from Toronto. The driver's license may say one thing, but they're living in Kingston. They have leases here, so we have to let them in.
This is not a full reopening. It's a return to the color-coded framework. And while the rest of the province is under the stay-at-home order, 3 public health units have graduated to the green zone. Renfrew County, Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington, and Hastings, Prince Edward County, where the chef-owner of Tabarnak is apprehensive.
There's always a fear that the other zone will travel from red, gray to green, like it happened last year. So that's always fearful that people don't respect, I'll say, the law, because to some extent it's a law to be followed.
She says some businesses are choosing to stay closed. The county's medical officer of health, though, says the timing was right to open.
we are in the place that we haven't been since earlier in the fall. Our total count has been 376. Compared to the provincial numbers, this is the count that some regions might have had in a day.
He too is concerned about people traveling to the county, so he's augmented the rules in a way that allows businesses to refuse reservations from people who live in areas with the stay-at-home order.
Tourism is very important for our region. Again, we're a beautiful part of the province, and tourism's always been big, but this is not the time to restart that.
If at some point, the local health unit puts a ban on travel between cities, well, that'll make it a lot easier, but in the meantime, we just got to be cautious.
The rest of the province moves to the color-coded framework next week, except for 3 GTA hotspots, Toronto, York, and Peel. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Creating safer workspaces was the goal of a provincial COVID crackdown on businesses the last few weeks. Today, the Minister of Labour announced the enforcement is going from big box stores to another target. Greg Ross has those details.
COVID-19 compliance numbers at essential businesses have been trending upward since the start of the year, according to the Minister of Labour.
During 3 weeks of blitzes, with visits to almost 1,500 businesses, the compliance rate among big box stores increased by almost 19%. And compliance among other retailers, such as convenience stores, dollar stores, and gas stations, increased by 7%.
He says they saw more people wearing masks and that businesses were screening workers and customers. He says it's a direct result of a no-nonsense approach by the province when it comes to these inspections.
This year, the difference is in January, our inspectors now have the powers to issue fines on the spot. Remember, you, your workers, and even your customers can be ticketed. Be smart. Don't let it come to that.
And in some more severe cases, punishment has been far worse.
63 businesses have been shut down because of unsafe workplaces or job sites. I can tell you there are a number of investigations ongoing.
Today, he says inspectors shifted away from big box stores as they began a new campaign.
This time, we're focusing on distribution centers in Peel region. Inspectors will visit approximately 100 of these warehouses, including break rooms and back offices, to check that health and safety measures are being followed.
The mayor of Mississauga offered her full support to the province.
Well, I encourage the initiative, as a matter of fact. I think it's great news and we welcome it here.
After a number of reported outbreaks in Peel, the region's medical officer of health admitted help is needed.
I'm hopeful that this blitz will really help to bring employers into compliance and take steps to protect our workers who are often precariously employed, many temporary contract workers.
With many areas of the province starting to reopen, the Minister of Labour's office has confirmed they are in the process of hiring 100 new inspectors to help meet the demand, in addition to using inspectors from other departments to help out. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Now to an active Toronto police investigation. A 47-year-old man is dead after a shooting in a parking garage last night. It happened at a newly constructed building near Danforth and Oak Park Avenues. Paramedics received the call at about 10:30 p.m.
They arrived on scene. They located a male suffering from gunshot wounds. Toronto police officers arrived on scene shortly after. Unfortunately, the male's injuries are so severe that he's pronounced deceased on scene.
Police have identified the victim as Harry Lannis of Toronto. The homicide squad has taken over the investigation, and they're asking anyone who knew the victim or has more information to come forward. They would also like to hear from anyone who has security or dash cam video from the area around 10:20 last night. And a California officer has dropped his lawsuit against Toronto Raptors president Masai Ujiri. The lawsuit stemmed from an altercation that happened at the 2019 NBA Finals, and you probably remember it. Video showed Deputy Alan Strickland pushing Ujiri and preventing him from accessing the court after the Raps won the NBA championship. The Raptors, MLSE, and the NBA were also named in Strickland's lawsuit. Ujiri later filed a countersuit alleging unauthorized use of force by Strickland. That has also since been dropped.
It's not just, hey, we're going to get you to graduation, but successfully get you to graduation. Feeling more empowered to take on the challenges that the world is coming at you with.
After the break, Black students in the TDSB now have access to a graduation coach. It follows studies showing lower graduation rates for Black students. We'll speak to one of the coaches coming up. Plus,
temperatures near seasonal overnight tonight. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy, but we're going to get into some cooler daytime highs. All the information coming up after the break.
for the very first time, Black students in the Toronto District School Board have access to a graduation coach. The pilot program actually started last March. Natalie Collada has the story.
The teacher asked her, "What are you doing in this classroom?" Right? To say that you don't belong in an enriched classroom. And these are the conversations that we're having daily with Black students.
Tough but necessary conversations. Keisha Evans works at 2 Toronto high schools with Black students from grade 9 through 12 and beyond as what's being called a graduation coach.
It's not just, hey, we're going to get you to graduation, but successfully get you to graduation with more confidence, feeling more empowered to take on the challenges that the world is coming at you with.
A 2017 York University study said Black high school students in Toronto drop out at higher rates and are less likely to apply for post-secondary education.
Black students continue to be disengaged, not really graduating in the high numbers as their peers. And therefore, I think it's an attempt to address that problem.
The Ontario government provided more than $1.5 million in funding for the pilot project, which started in March. Evans says she's already seeing change in the students she's mentoring.
You'd be surprised at how many students reached out and said, I need the support. I'm so happy that you're here.
For grade 12 student Sophia Liendo, the program has helped turn her dream of becoming a pediatric surgeon into a plan.
Having someone in a position of power who is not only Black, but also a Black woman has, opened my eyes to the possibilities for me again, like things that I can do. It's no longer impossible in my mind.
And that, says Evans, is exactly the point.
If someone has been told that they don't belong for so long, we're now coming in and saying, no, you do belong. You can do better.
By all accounts, a successful program that's scheduled to end in June. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
And you can find more stories like this one on our website. That's at cbc.ca/beingblack in Canada. Taking a live look now at Toronto's skyline, and with a temperature of about -8, it may not sound that cold, but when you factor in that wind chill, you will definitely want to bundle up if you're heading outside for a late night walk or something like that with the dog. I don't know. Colette Kennedy is joining me now. Colette, another chilly one out there.
Thanks, Chris. Well, certainly a cool day in terms of our daytime highs running below seasonal, but really this isn't the core of the coldest air that's coming in. It kind of arrives closer to Friday and sticks around to the beginning of next week. And it's not really till the end of next week that we start to see those temperatures coming up in a significant fashion. So the high today, -6 for Toronto. Check out Windsor at -8 with all that cloud cover and then the snow beginning into the later afternoon hours. Light in nature, I know, but we'll be seeing that tapering off and moving out. And then just some flurries through the overnight hours. We do still have a little bit of lake effect. Our winds had primarily been from the west, turning more northwesterly. And you're going to see some of this cloud cover. Well, it'll start to push in towards Friday. We'll have mostly sunny skies to partly cloudy through the GTA for Thursday. By Friday, though, could see a few morning flurries. And the greater chance for that is going to be Burlington, Hamilton, and around towards the Niagara region. Not much to it, so not really anticipating accumulations there. Really, as we look ahead, it's not till we get into the weekend, Saturday night over into Sunday, we could get a little bit of light snow then, and more significant snow perhaps by Tuesday of next week. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll start with tonight, and -13, feeling like -18 Windsor again as that light snow and cloud cover pushes away. Still a few flurries, and then more of a clearing trend through the overnight hours. -14 for your low there into London. Tomorrow, daytime highs slightly warmer than they were today, so -4 winter. Will be nice to have that sun shining, but you can see running well below seasonal there if we compare that to average. The overnight lows around the GTA, anywhere with that extra cloud cover from -8 in St. Catharines to more like -12 for Markham with a flurry risk, and over towards Oshawa as well. And you see that wind chill factor, it's -16 to about -18 that we'll be experiencing. So tomorrow morning by about 8 a.m. we'll bring that temperature up to -9, and by the afternoon hours, this is what our daytime highs look like. So we're running a few degrees below seasonal. So what I meant is that by Friday, the core of the colder air, the overnight lows aren't now looking so bad, or at least so cold, but the daytime highs will be running more like 5 degrees below seasonal as we look ahead. Let me show you what that looks like exactly. So Friday morning, see how these numbers, I brought them up a couple of degrees for the overnight lows, but look at the daytime high on Friday, -8. Saturday, there's that light snow, anywhere from 1 to say 3 or 4 centimeters that we'll be seeing. And then it's off our map here, but it's Tuesday when we have the chance of seeing more significant snow coming in here. We'll be keeping an eye on that, Chris.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
You may be celebrating Valentine's Day on Sunday, but Feb 14th also marks another very special day. It's Hazel McCallion Day in the province of Ontario, and it is, in fact, Hazel McCallion's birthday. This year, Mississauga's longest-serving mayor turns 100. Hurricane Hazel, as she's known, served the city and its residents as mayor from 1978 to 2014. In an interview ahead of the big day, our Dwight Drummond asked her if she has any big birthday plans.
Well, of course, I was hoping that maybe the premier today would announce that the lockdown has ended for my birthday. That hasn't happened. So on my birthday, I will be celebrating it with my family. I'd hope that maybe a few of my closest friends could be with me, but the lockdown does not allow it. So we must adhere to the regulation.
And you can watch the full interview with Hazel McCallion. It is worth the watch ahead of her 100th birthday right on our website. Head to cbc.ca/Toronto. Finally, tonight, the pandemic has put a spotlight on creative ways of thinking, and a teenager from Quebec has taken it to the next level. Take a look at his choreography with some unusual stars. The teen choreographed and filmed this dance for his uncle's excavation company. Certainly not your ordinary dance performance. But boy, did it look neat. And that is our show for you tonight. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.